So, what if success is not giving you relief because the second you reach the goal, the finish line moves? Today, we're talking about why so many high capacity women build the business, fill the calendar, serve the clients, hit the milestones, and still never feel like they get to breathe. Today, we are continuing our conversation with Beverly Cornell, founder of Wickedly Branded, about one of the most honest and important patterns women face in business, the vanishing finish line. So, Beverly has already walked us through the tornado of overwhelm, the should suitcase, the monkeys of distraction, and the evolution gap. And today we're diving into another powerful concept from her upcoming book, Claim Your Voice, Visibility, and Authority in a World Not Built for Women, which is expected to release later this summer or early fall. And if you haven't checked out the previous podcast about all of those terms that I just mentioned, you're going to want to go back and check all the episodes out and then jump back into this one because this is all such important stuff. So the vanishing finish line is something that Beverly's going to dive into today. And it's that moment when you reach your goal, you thought you would finally let you breathe. And so you have the clients, the calendar's full, the referrals are happening, the business is growing, but instead of feeling any type of relief, you don't. And so, Beverly, I'm super excited for you to unpack this term. We're also going to talk about arrive goals. I mean, you always bring so much to this conversation. I'm just going to bring you in and let's get started.
I have all these little frameworks that I love, but I feel like every time I've worked with clients or I've had conversations over and over again with people, especially women leaders, women founders, these patterns keep emerging. And so I've put names to them so that we can address them more clearly. And once you are aware of them, then you can start to maybe intentionally frame them for your life and for the work that you do. So the vanishing finish line is exactly what you said, Lisa. I'm so excited to talk about this concept because this is one that is near and dear to my heart because I have done this and still do it occasionally for myself. It's really hard to break the habit of doing this. You know, women will create goals that are really powerful, and we are very capable, high performing women who are doing badass things, and we will make a goal to get a specific client or to make all the appointments on our calendar full with discovery calls or whatever that is for that particular leader or founder. And then, we get the thing, it happens. And for about 12 minutes, there's a flicker of relief, but then that next thing comes in, right? We need either to improve something about the process, maybe make a better funnel or, okay, now this works. So how can we be more consistent and do it more often? Or maybe we need to hire somebody to do the thing or, okay, now that I have this perfected, now we need to scale it. How do we scale it? That becomes what I call moving the goalposts, right? We constantly make the goal and then move it further out. The vanishing finish line, it just keeps extending out to almost like, how the oasis is kind of like wavy in the future. You kind of see it out there. It's kind of there, but you don't know how to get there because there's no depth perception. There's no understanding of how to get there. But the thing I believe that the vanishing finish line does the most is it actually really exhausts women. And last time we talked a little bit about burnout and the gap, the great disconnection and evolution gap and the should suitcase and legacy load, all these things that women carry that create this ever feeling of burnout and stress. And this vanishing finish line is another factor that I believe women are notorious for actually just keeping to move the finish line on ourselves. So when the vanishing finish line is not only about wanting more, because I think we all want more. I believe that if you're high capacity, if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, you're like driven, right? It's about never getting to receive what you've already reached. It's this idea of success does not create relief because the business ends up spending the relief. So once you arrive to the goal that you think you've had, the business spends it because now the business needs other things. You need to feed the monster you've created. And so that can be really, really hard for women. And if they don't notice it, it can consume you in many ways.
Yeah, there's always like, I mean, even for me, if I've like crushed something, I'm like, okay, what's next? And it's
Yeah.
like this celebration for like 2 minutes. And then it's like, okay, on to the next thing. And it's like we punish ourselves. It's like it's never
Yes, it's
enough.
sadomasochistic. It
Crazy.
is sadomasochistic. Like it is the harshest treatment of anyone. And if I was talking to my child, let's say that they did their cello concert or the recital, we would go out and celebrate afterwards, right? But
Yeah.
do we do any of that for ourselves? Absolutely not. You're right. Like we crush it, we kill it every day. We're doing amazing things. Women are breaking barriers left and right, and we are not really feeling like we've ever arrived in some way. One of the
We should
questions,
celebrate getting out of bed some days because being a woman is so challenging. Oh my gosh,
just
the
putting on our makeup,
hormones
you
and
know?
all the things. Never
Yes.
mind running a
Yes.
business, right? And
Right.
the world's not set up for this. The world's set up, it's
No.
still a man-run world. It's gotten so much
Hmm.
better, but
But men are
it
really
is
good at
so
celebrating
challenging.
themselves. They high five, they fist bump, they do all, they really they do a good job of celebrating themselves. I remember I worked for a company before I started my business, and every time a salesperson made a sale, they literally rung a gong, and everybody cheered in the class in the office. Everybody cheered for the sale. Like literally, there was a celebration built into the culture of the business. And I don't know a lot of women who do that, but it was male run, male driven business. And yeah, that makes total sense. Why are we not celebrating some of the little stuff? Like you're right, it is, and it doesn't have to be a huge, big thing to celebrate. It can be really little milestones that matter to you and your business, or even more so to your life and how it fits into your business.
So, what does this sound like in real life? Like, what does this sound like for someone that's actually in it? What are some examples of this?
Once I hit this particular income goal this quarter, I'll take a week off, but not until
Mm.
that happens, right? Once the kids are done with summer, I'll work on my marketing, right? Once I have one more case study or one more thing that I can like prove my worth, then I'll raise my prices. Once I
Mm.
finish this client project, then I'll work on my own business. So there's all these goals that create other goals that cost the business and cost you time and energy that can consume you in the business. So what's happening is I see that these statements of like once the kids are done with summer or whatever, these statements come from women who are paying attention to real life. They see what's happening around them, right? They're looking at the calendar, they're looking at their caregiving requirement, the loads that they carry there. They know that the dinner that still has to happen. They know the inbox that keeps filling, and they're trying to make a responsible choice for the business. This is all done from a really good place, Lisa. This is not done from a sadomasochist place, but it ends up turning into a really detrimental, consistent behavior. They say like, "Oh, I know this might sound like a lot, or I don't need anything huge, or I'd be happy with just this happening," before they let themselves name what they really want from
Mhm.
themselves in the business. Like there's some kind of like, I don't know, race or checkbox or something that we have to like cross off before we can actually do the thing. The other action that I believe many women do is they soften their goals.
Mhm.
And that often also creates a blurry finish line. So if she negotiates down the goal before she even starts, she may not even know what arrival is supposed to feel like when she gets there because she's not really clear about what that goal will look and feel like and play out in her business. So I can make a goal. I want to make $1 million. I can make that goal, but what does that really mean for me when I make $1 million? Okay, first of all, yes, I'll have maybe some disposable income, but now I'll have more work, maybe more team members to manage. Like that goal has a consequence to it. And if you're not clear about how that goal fully encapsulates your life and your business, it can be very dangerous to create those goals. So oftentimes you'll hear people talking about, one of the questions I ask all the time on my podcast is, when did you know you were successful? And
Mm.
so many women, I don't know about men because I don't really interview them, but so many women are kind of wishy-washy on it. Well, I'm kind of successful now, but maybe when I get to $1 million, I'll be successful. But what does that success look like at $1 million? And what does it cost you at $1 million? So that's the other parts of the goal that can get real blurry and fuzzy fast because you haven't thought about how this all plays out. So all these decisions they're making, I say this because, first of all, I understand this particular part of it deep in my bones. As an accidental entrepreneur with no plan, but just I created a job for myself that could go with my husband wherever we went as an Army family. We had to move every 3 years. We had to be mobile. As a person who's created a business like that with no grand plan, I'm an accidental entrepreneur, not a I know how to build a business, what I'm going to do. I said yes to everything. Because, I wanted my business to work, right?
Mhm.
I cared about my clients. I was very capable of taking care of everybody in this process, my clients, my family. And I thought that if I said yes to my clients when they asked me for something that wasn't really in my wheelhouse, that I was creating momentum. I was building
Right.
out the business in a way that would grow it and make it successful. But what I didn't understand while I was building momentum was it also taught me that if something needed to happen with the business, guess who had to absorb it? Me. So when
Exactly.
I said yes, it wasn't like, oh, I could just delegate that down or I could do this or whatever. I had to figure it out. I had to create a system. I had to hire somebody for it. Who absorbed it? Me. So when you're creating momentum, you have to be careful not to create this absorption of additional exhaustion that's going to happen from all the other work that's going to come from that. So I would tell
Yeah.
myself, really all the time, once we get through this move, I'll create more structure in my business. Once this deployment season settles, I'll rethink the way that I work because I was just in like reactive, just getting by, making sure everyone stayed alive mode in my house.
Right.
Once I get
Yeah.
through this particular client project that's sucking my soul dry, then I will protect my time, right? Like there's all these it just kind of starts to blur what the goal actually is then, right? So really the goal is I need to protect my time better. But I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was thinking about it in the respect of the goal of the project, not actually what I needed as a business owner and as a mom and as a military spouse. I just kept
Yeah.
adding another layer of remembering things, planning things, anticipating things, adjusting things, implementing things. There was always a next once X happens. And the clean, perfect window of opportunity that I was waiting for kept getting filled with the same pattern, different, just a different disguise, right? So whether it was a project or school or whatever that was, it just kept filling it. You have the space that fills it, right? Like it just happens by life. Life will do that to you. So that is what it looks like. It looks like that never-ending kind of nebulous ending and pattern that we create as business owners that we end up having to absorb all that extra stuff when we make certain goals that are important to us. Obviously, like those are important, but we aren't understanding how it plays out after we make that goal. What does it look like for us?
Yeah, and it's like that just makes me feel burnt out just thinking about it because I've been there too where it's like if I didn't have my calendar full of meetings, I felt incompetent or it's like I was afraid that no money was going to come in and but even if the calendar was full of meetings that weren't really in my niche, like it was like not even related to what
Oh,
my
that's
end
good.
goal was. So what you're saying
Yeah.
about being clear on what you're looking to do is so important as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, that's a really great example of it. And, I don't know how you grew up, but my mom grew up this way. And therefore, I was socially conditioned this way. But idle hands are the work of the devil, right? So if my calendar wasn't full, I felt like I wasn't being productive or I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing as a business owner and felt like I was I don't want to say lazy because I'm far from a lazy person, but I was somehow slacking as a founder or
Yeah.
something if I wasn't doing all of the things that I could check the box on. And it, like you said, it could be just like busy work. And, the wrong people in your calendar can be like soul sucking. So, yeah, like that is a great example of how, okay, I want to fill the calendar, but what does it actually mean for me and my work and my life? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So how does that invisible labor move from a woman's home life into the way she runs her business? You mentioned
Right.
invisible labor.
Yes. Research keeps showing us that women carry a substantial amount of invisible labor around planning, remembering, coordinating calendars, anticipating everyone else's needs. And in
Yeah,
2025, there was a study on cognitive household labor that found that this specific kind of mental load, the remembering, the quiet, the invisible stuff, is connected to very strongly to women's stress, burnout, mental health, and relationship strain. The research language is really helpful and useful, and it's because the live version feels very ordinary. Like we just go through the motions and do all these things. But when it's named as like all this extra stuff can cause you stress, burnout, and mental health issues and relationship strain, all those other things also contribute to the stress and strain, right? So if you're not getting along with your husband, now there's even more things you're concerned about. So it's like almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're doing this invisible load and it causes all the stress, then the stress causes you to be impatient, causes more relationship strain, causes more stress, causes more burnout, causes you to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you're not able to sleep. That is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's knowing that there is a permission slip that is due while you're writing the proposal. So I'm writing the proposal for my client, but I'm also remembering the dentist appointment. Well, I'm also answering a client. I'm also hearing the tone in someone's email and knowing that there's more underneath it. I'm also being the person who sees what needs to happen before anyone else has named it, because I am so capable and I'm so ready and I'm so alert to what's happening around me. So for women who run service-based businesses, relational businesses, the same skills that often become part of the business, like the anticipating a client needs, the remembering of the context of conversations, the noticing of the emotional shifts. Those are all things that make us really good wives and moms, and that can like really play out in your business and make you very good at it. It makes you feel personal and trusted. And that kind of care can be a business strength, but it also can be the private weight of the business that we have as women. That emotional mental load that can carry then into the business can cause more burnout, more relationship strain, more issues, because we are carrying even more now, not just the family's load, but we're carrying the business load too. We're managing people's relationships, people's emotions, people's behaviors in ways that men typically don't really even see, to be honest. I mean, they're
Mm.
not, there are some that do, but that's not even on their radar. Their radar is very linear. I want to sell this product and do the thing and move on. Like there's just a very different linear process for men, where women are much more relational, nurturing, want the peace in the relationship. And it's a very different underlying thing that can be a superpower for us. Absolutely. But also can cause us to have even more indivisible load that we have to manage on top of it. So what they found is that entrepreneurs specifically, so I think this also includes men in this case, report more stress and worry than other workers, but they also report higher levels of enjoyment and optimism, right? So what I see all the time is that people that I work with love their work. They're deeply passionately so. Like I
Mhm.
love what I do 100%. I feel alive when I'm working, and I'm super proud of what I have built. But the business still asks so much of my body and my attention. And that like leaks into my evenings or my 3 a.m. wake ups, or when I'm in the shower, or I'm in the school drop off line, or I'm at the grocery store, or I'm cooking dinner and I'm thinking about solving that problem. Like it's really hard to build that barrier around it because it is so relational. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's like no end to it. So it's like
No.
all consuming. And I think what
Hmm.
you said about like high capacity women are especially likely to get caught up in this. But what
Hmm.
I see is like women who think this is what they want. Like they want the freedom. They want to be able to leave and go to an appointment and spend their day how they want and have control of their own calendar. But once they get there, it's like completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so,
I
yeah,
I
it's
have
challenging,
said the same thing. Like I built a business for freedom and ended up being trapped.
right?
The very business that I created became
Hmm.
my cage of stress, exhaustion, overwork, overwhelm. I say overworked, overwhelmed, and almost over it, because I started to resent my
Yeah.
clients, started to resent the work, the very work that I absolutely love deep into my bones and in my soul, and I would know I was meant to do. I started to resent it because I was so tired and didn't have a way to like create the boundary. And you said like there's boundaries in all this, right? I work at home, I live at home, and I might go put in a load of laundry and then come back and do a podcast with you, Lisa, because I
Yeah.
get that flexibility. But that means there's never like a break, never like a boundary on like what is work and what is home and what is good for Beverly in all of that. It kind of all blurs. So it is a real issue for women specifically, I feel like.
Totally. And then the defining like success, like we attach to this because it's like, this is what's defining me. And it could quietly take away our, like, the way we look at ourselves because we don't see ourselves as like successful without achievement, right?
Yeah.
And when you can
Yeah.
separate yourself from that and say, you know what, I am enough even without this, even without being busy all the time. Like I have a hard time sitting still. I imagine you have a hard time sitting still without
Yes.
doing something because we're
Yes.
so busy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. So you said that capacity can quietly become the business plan. I'm curious as to what that means.
So what happens is, because they're capable and have the capacity to do a lot of things, high capacity women specifically are very good at making everything work. Like we are rock stars. We are like
Totally.
badass. We can walk into a situation and that seems complicated and complex and just start sorting. Right. So we can walk into this very seemingly complicated and complex situation and just start sorting. We can hear what a client's saying, right? And just understand so much underneath what they're saying. And I always equate it to like my computer. My husband has like one tab open on his computer, but I have like literally right now, I can probably tell you I have like 30 tabs open on my computer. So
Mhm.
we can work in all these different ways, and we can also be like really tired and still be really useful. We can be really stretched. See, that's what I was afraid of. We can be really stretched and also super, super kind and thoughtful at the same time. We can be under supported at work and at home and still deliver. We can still clean, still cook the dinners. We can still do it because we push through. We're very driven, and we don't always know how to slow down because we're high capacity, right? We like the challenge. We like to be busy in that way. But the challenge is that capacity can quietly become the business plan.
Mhm.
And that's what happened with me. I had no business plan, but my capacity became my business plan. Whatever I could fit into a day is what the business did. And the more that the business needed, the more I absorbed and the more the plan became. So a full calendar can look like proof of the success, proof of the success of the business until it starts robbing us of the freedom the business was supposed to protect. A revenue mark or goal can be another pressure point when there's no plan for what the money is meant to make possible.
Mhm.
So again, if you make $1 million, what does that mean specifically for you? And do you understand that it also means more work? And how is that going to play out? A better client can bring deeper work, right? Like it can bring really good work. I feel like now we do really deep, wonderful work, but it also brings higher expectations from the client and more responsibility from us to deliver. So that asks more from who? From us or our team if we have
Absolutely.
a good team. So what I see is my clients will come to us, and a woman who has reached some sort of a version of something that she wanted, whether it's more clients, better clients, higher revenue, whatever it is. And she says, I just thought this would feel different because she
Yeah.
reached the goal. The achievement happened, right? But the business immediately converted that achievement into maintenance and expansion and more responsibilities. So she did not actually arrive. She has to keep up now. And that's more stress, more exhaustion, more pressure, all the things. And because we're highly capable, and I think we thrive in very dynamic environments, we almost think that that's a good thing. That's the sadomasochist part, Lisa, because
Yeah.
we're like, oh, I'm doing the thing. Like I'm doing the thing. And we don't realize what it's costing us by doing all of the things for the business.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was speaking to someone who launched their book yesterday, and I said, "How do you feel? Congratulations. This is amazing." And they're like, "I thought it would feel different."
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
I'm curious as to what this feeling is that we're all chasing when it comes to success. Like what are we
Yeah.
expecting to feel?
I think we're expecting to feel like okay, now I've done it. Like now I've done the hard things, right? Like so I can somehow rest in that, but there's no rest. We're actually creating more work. We're creating more busyness for ourselves. And I'm not saying that you can't be good to $1 million and be very successful intentionally, because you can. But what that is the intention around it. Like if you're going to create that goal and you want certain things to happen, then you have to correlate that goal with the other things in your life. It can't just be a goal living in isolation by itself without any kind of ramifications of how it affects you, your team, your family. Even writing this book right now, when you're writing, you need uninterrupted time, right? You need flow. And I have 11 I'm an 11-year-old and I have a husband and I work from home. So do you think that they leave me alone when I'm writing? Absolutely not. Like they come barging in, Mom, where's the cookies for whatever? Or hey, I need a water bottle for soccer practice, whatever it is. And I keep telling, like, go ask Dad, but he comes to me because I'm mostly the one that's home. My husband's gone a lot. He's in the military. He's gone a lot. So it's just, it's hard to define that in that. So if I tell my husband I'm writing a book, then we have to create some expectations about, hey, I need you to like kind of, run interference for me. I need you to like
Right.
try to help Zeke and maybe ask me what you need before I go in my office. Like look ahead of your day and say, okay, we're going to need a water bottle. We're going to need this. Maybe get that together before I enter my office so that I'm not as interrupted, right? So it's not just my goal, and also isolation has to be everybody who's at play needs to understand it. So even my team, hey team, I'm writing this book, so I need you guys to like carry this, this, and this so that I can put my energy towards this particular activity for the business. If I don't do that, who's carrying it? Me. So there's some responsibility for me to share it, but also for the people around me to understand what's happening too and to step up a little bit in that. So I don't think, I don't know, I don't think that women always think about how the goal affects the rest of their life. The goal
Mhm.
affects how it's going to create tension for themselves or for others. So I believe we all want to feel successful. And there's all these markers for success that the society has told us is success. And that was the dangerous part for me, Lisa, was that when I was saying yes to everyone and I had no business plan and I was doing the thing and I was feeling very capable in the process and I was checking all the boxes and I was so busy. And by all measures of outside looking in, everyone was like, dang, she's doing it, right? And I thought, dang, I'm doing it too, but I don't like it. This
Right.
is not what I expected it to be or feel like. So then I had to rethink, what do I want it to feel like? And then how do I create that for myself? And that's where I have those feelings. And then I heard so many women when we worked with have those feelings, that I saw the pattern of the vanishing finish line and said, okay, this needs to be addressed. How can we address this in a systematic way, with a formula of some sort to make it better, right? For all of us to make it better. So, and the hard part in this is that you have to recognize it, because really nothing is technically falling apart when you're feeling this way. Like, the work is getting done. The clients are probably very happy. The business has evidence of the growth, right? Your revenue markers are going up. The receipts say success, but your energy, your feeling, that tells another story. That's the part that I think needs to be addressed. Because when you talk about having enough or being successful, or what I call arrived, that's a different feeling than just the receipts say success. It's a much more holistic, peaceful feeling when you feel like you
Mhm.
have arrived in that way. So when you know the goal and you know the purpose and you know all those things, you might not feel like you need to do that quick reply during lunch. Maybe you set some expectations around your day. I'm very intentional about my time. I'm very intentional about when I check my phone. I'm very intentional about all of that. So I don't just have to feel like I have to like react with quick replies or things like that. Like, I guard myself much more because I know my goal. My goal is to have a business that fuels my life, not, sucks it dry. And then I have nothing left for my family. And my husband struggles with this too. He's in a leadership position in the Army. He has to give a ton to the Army. And it's often really hard for him to come home and then have stuff left over for us, right? Like,
Mhm.
he gives so much and he's such an honorable guy, and he believes in what they're doing, and he's a great soldier, but he often gives so much in the name of like trying to help his soldiers that there's very little left for us. And so he understands that too. Like, the goal is to be successful in his work, but not at the cost of his family. And so he's trying to balance that too. So it's not just a female thing for sure, but this is something where you have to decide, how does your work balance into the life that you want to lead. So I do this example. I do this exercise with all of my team members. Within the first 30 days of them coming on board, they have to write their eulogy. And I have them
Interesting.
write their eulogy because I feel like I need to understand the kind of life they want to lead. Like, they want people to say this about them. And then I can hold them accountable to, so you want to be a really good Christian, like, are you going to church? Are you reading the Bible? Like, what is the idea of a good Christian for you? And then how are you incorporating that into your life? And like, ask them about it, because now I know that's something that matters to them. And I'm not saying like I'm trying to make them feel guilty, but now we have a point of like, how can I help you support this part of you?
Mhm.
And so you kind of see the more holistic picture. So something that you might want to do as a listener is to write your eulogy, because it gives you a perspective of what's really important. And are you living the life today that will get you there? And if not, what needs to change to help you with that eulogy? For me, I want people to have like a better, like, to leave them better than, like be an agent of goodness in the world if possible, and leave things better than I found them, kind of thing. So if I work with a founder, I hope I leave her better and that she is able to do more for her community and her family and her team because of the work that we do together. The ripple effect of that is really powerful. So that's something that's really important to me in my eulogy. And so now when I'm making goals, that has to be part of the perspective in that, is that ultimate goal of how the life I want to lead and the life I want to enjoy on this planet. So I feel like the arrival is different for everyone. What's important to you, Lisa, is different than what's important to me. Maybe for you, you do want the challenge every day. That feels good to you. But maybe for me, it's like, I'll take a challenge a month, not every day. Like, I don't
Right.
need it every day. I do enjoy a good challenge, but I don't need it every day. So that's something you have to kind of decide for yourself. And that's where the arrive goals kind of come into play because it makes you kind of put it in a construct that is easier to understand.
Mhm. For sure. Those boundaries that you talked about at the beginning before you were talking about this concept, I think are so important because what I find is that if I'm starting to if my mental health is like kind of on the line and I'm feeling really irritable and I'm being triggered by little things,
Yeah.
then it's gonna bleed into my personal life and family life
Mhm.
and with
Mhm.
people around me that I love, and so I often sit down and I'm like, "What is actually triggering me right now?" Because
Ooh,
there's been
such a
times where
good
it's been really
practice.
unfair to the people around me where I've said things or I've done things that I was doing only because I was exhausted or because I wasn't
Mhm.
happy or because I didn't set the boundaries for myself or ask for what I needed. So what you said about telling your kids to ask me before I go into my office. Like just those
Mhm.
little things that can be so helpful for
Mhm.
everybody.
Yeah, right. First of all, you claiming your boundary is powerful because you actually know what you need and you're expressing that. It's powerful for my son to understand that too because it helps teach him how to create boundaries. Like he needs to also create boundaries in his life, and this is how I'm going to teach him to do that. It's powerful for my husband because he understands what I need in those moments. Like he's able to support me in a way that is very powerful, right? And he wants to love and support me as much as possible, and if I don't give him the tools or ways to do that, that's actually like kind of an impossible task then for him.
Mhm.
It's a moving target, right? So if I am as upfront about what I need, now I'm not saying they always listen and do everything perfectly, nor do I. Absolutely not. But it's a process. Like, and the more you do it, the practice of doing it, you do get better at those boundaries. And it even like I remember a couple times, like I teach this to my team too. If a client emails you or texts you and says, "Hey, I need this thing," the first answer is not, "Oh, just do it." It's, "Okay, when you need it by."
Right.
Because it probably isn't an emergency. It's just that that person's working at that time and that the thought came in their head and they're very busy, so they execute it, right? And so my first, yep, absolutely sounds like a great plan. We'll say great idea. When do you need that by? And
Mhm.
then they'll say Monday. So it's not even like it's the weekend. It's not even over the weekend they need it. They just were thinking about it and got it off their plate to your plate. So it's even like in your relationships at work, how do you create those boundaries as well? Right? Like, how do you say to the client, like, it's the weekend without saying it's the weekend and say, hey, when do you need this
Right.
by? Or I'd be happy to do that when I'm back at my desk, like I'm away from my desk or whatever. So there's lots of ways to create the boundary, even with clients and the work that you do, so that you're honoring yourself and what is important to you in that too. Like, you have to create those boundaries. And I bet probably could be a whole episode, Lisa, to be honest, is about boundary
Totally.
making.
Boundaries. Yeah,
But yes, but I do a lot
absolutely.
of that. And even with my team, I say, like, there might be a frustrated client. I tell them not to take it internally. Like, don't just because they're frustrated doesn't mean it's your problem, right?
Mhm.
Women do this all the time. We take on people's emotions. We're very empathetic, compassionate, sympathetic human beings. So they'll always say, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Well, wait, you don't have to say I'm sorry." So like if I'm late to somewhere, I'll say, "Thank you for the grace and patience for waiting for me," instead of "I'm sorry I'm late."
Mhm.
If I'm really sorry about doing something wrong, I will say I'm sorry. But for the most part, it's thank you for whatever. That instead of like if it is something wrong, oh my gosh, thank you for pointing it out. I really appreciate the feedback, as opposed to I'm sorry. So sorry is a much more like deep feeling, and you don't need to internalize the issue as a personal flaw to say I'm sorry. You can just say I appreciate or thank you or grace or whatever that is. You're human. It's okay to like not be perfect all the time. It's how you handle that, right? And I'm sorry isn't always the best response because it puts you in a lower position immediately.
Mhm.
And with our clients, we're
Totally.
partners. We're partners. So there's not a reason to be lower. It's just acknowledge it, fix it, and move on. So we talk a lot about that, even from a personal boundary kind of situation. So I work with my team a lot on even like language, because for women, we say we're sorry. I think it's like 10 times more than men do.
Mhm.
And so, like, why? But this is a way to kind of frame it as like, it's not a personal flaw. You just made a mistake. Like that's a very different kind of experience than saying I'm sorry. So anyway, the boundaries thing is a huge thing. And I do a lot of coaching with my team members on that because I do feel like we need to be more aware of how we create our boundaries and what those boundaries look like in all kinds of interactions. When we don't do well, when we are doing well, all kinds of things. So that's something that I've really practiced, is not saying I'm sorry as much unless I'm truly deeply sorry, genuinely sorry for something that I did to hurt someone or something. But if it's a human error, it says, wow, thank you for the feedback. We will get this fixed. We'll put in something in place to prevent it from happening next time, whatever. It's a human thing. Like, you don't have to be sorry for
Hmm.
being human, right? So I work really hard on that. So that's a whole nother kind of conversation, but certainly something that the boundaries can also be internal language in some ways to make you feel more stressed and burnt out. So like if the client says, hey, I need this, your immediate reaction goes into, I have to do the thing. Well, no, wait a minute. Do you really have to do the thing? Like, ask the question, clarify to understand really what the client needs, because maybe they don't need it right away. Probably they don't need it right away, and create the boundary for yourself so that you're not spinning in that tornado all the time, which is crazy to be in. I
It
think the
is
other thing
absolutely
about
crazy.
I think the other thing about we kind of talked about it, alluded to it, about how men like celebrate all the time, and that there's this real big celebration gap for women. A lot of women, they really skip the celebration for their wins, and I really try to like create winning situations for my team all the time. Like every quarter, we celebrate all their accomplishments. I give out certificates, like the stickers, essentially, but they love it because it is a mark of accomplishment. And on our
Hmm.
team calls, I'm always giving shout outs and things like that because that's evidence and proof of a good job. And we all need evidence and proof that we're doing a good job to fuel us. So even for ourselves, I call this glimmers. Like there's glimmers that we get. People will say, hey, Beverly, like I read your book or whatever, and it really resonated with me. And this particular line was like spot on. That's a glimmer that I'm on the right track, right? That's a glimmer of your soul purpose because people are reflecting back to you the power you have in this world, the purpose you have in this world. So collect a jar of glimmers, collect a file of glimmers, cut them out, put them in a jar, whatever you need to remind yourself, put them on a board, whatever you need to remind yourself that the work you're doing is important and has purpose. That's part of the celebration as well. It's like evidence that you are magical and that you are needed here in this work. So when I work with clients, I'll ask them, I'll say, if we're sitting across each other in 6 months, what are we toasting to?
Right.
And it's not oftentimes not like, oh, I got 100 more clients. It's that I don't have to work on Sundays. And that's
Exactly.
so
The
weird because I do
simplification.
marketing and branding. Yeah, at least I do marketing and branding, but that is where we create systems for them around marketing and branding. It frees them up to do other things and they have more time now on Sundays.
Hmm.
Or it's, I finally know what I'm like. When I go to a networking event, I know how to talk about what I do in a way that's compelling and people listen, and I'm getting more referrals. So I don't have to work as hard to go to networking events. So there's all this other stuff that kind of plays into it that I think is really important when it comes to that. So the celebration part, I think, is very important. And I actually, in the book, I call it the arrival toast. And it can be hot chocolate or sweet tea or champagne or whatever you decide that you want to toast with. But you do need some kind of, I don't want to say routine, but like a tradition around celebrating the work that you do. It's really important for, I think, especially for women, because
Absolutely.
we could get so pulled into the next thing all the time. So I think the biggest thing people need to understand about the ARRIVE goals is that SMART goals, specific, measurable, all the things that SMART stands for, those are great. They can give you a very clear target. They help you name the number, the timeline, the measurable result. So good. Like, I want to reach $10,000 a month by September 30th. That's really useful information. But a lot of women will reach those goals and then the finish line moves, right? So they hit the number and they still work every Sunday night and they book the client and they still check their messages during dinner and they fill the calendar and there's still no space in their brain to think because there's so much going on. So ARRIVE goals ask, what needs to be true when I get there? So ARRIVE stands for actual life is the A. What is happening in my real life that this goal needs to fuel and respect? So for me, if my husband's deployed, it needs to fuel the business, but also respect the additional time and energy I'm going to need to support my 11-year-old, right? So in that season, what does that look like for your family, your situation? The first R is reason. Why does this matter beyond the visible achievement? What is the deeper purpose? What does the 10K number give me? The freedom to do now. The resources, the R for resources, is what support structure, time, systems, people, tools, or boundaries will this require? And do I have it available to give in this time and this season? So if I'm creating some really awesome goal, but I am in a season of having to support my 11-year-old more because my husband's deployed, I probably need to think about that. Is that really the goal I need to make at this time? Or should I maybe modify the goal to be more reasonable because of the situation I'm in? Or maybe not do that goal at all because of the situation I'm in. Like, it's a nice thing to do, but maybe it's not really the right thing to do right now. And then the I is identity. Who am I becoming, and what old role am I ready to stop carrying? And how will this goal help me do that? So if you look at your eulogy, and this is the person you're becoming and what maybe you need to let go of, how will this goal help me do that specific thing? How does it contribute to that? And then values, the V. What needs to remain true in the way I grow? What is important in my life and the work that cannot, absolutely not be sacrificed? So if it's I need to pick up my son every day from school, then I need to be available for that. It cannot be sacrificed because I need to be a good mom and do those things or whatever. That is my personal boundary around that. And then E is my most favorite, enjoy. What do I actually want to enjoy when I arrive at this goal? What will make me happy? What will be enough? You say enough, but it's even more than enough. What will I enjoy? What peace of mind will I have? It can even be a little egotistical. How will I feel about myself after I do this thing, this hard thing, this brave step, whatever it is? That last one is so incredibly important because the vanishing finish line often steals the moment of arrival. It steals it. You hit the number, you book the client, whatever it is, and your mind, and before you can even breathe, like you said, 2 minutes, your mind has turned the win into the next responsibility. So enjoy asks you to name what the goal is supposed to give back in your life. Can I sit at dinner and actually linger a bit and taste the food? Can I take the trip and leave the laptop closed? I just took 2 trips, 9 days in April. I went to Cartagena, Colombia for my cousin's wedding, and I took a 15-day cruise around England, Ireland, Scotland, and France in May with my family and my parents. And all I did the entire time was did a little bit of writing ideation for my book, and I checked a few emails. My business was working without me, mostly because I had simplified, systemized, and scaled my team over the last 2 years. I did the work that was a goal so that I can go on a 15-day vacation and not have to do anything. That's the enjoyment part of it, right? And it was an amazing vacation. So I like women to clearly name 2 finish lines. One is the enough line, and would this work in this season of life kind of thing, right? So would it create enough room, enough revenue, enough support, enough completion, enough breathing space right now, whatever that is for you. So the other is the stretch line. Would it be meaningful to reach if the capacity, timing, and support were there? Like, I can do this with enough, but if all these other things were in place, if I had a vendor, if I had a team member, if I had a VA, if I had an automation, if I had something, what would be that stretch goal? A lot of women only name the stretch goal, not the enough goal. And then they measure the whole season against that stretch goal. And because they can't get there, because of all the other things that we carry, they feel like they're failing, or they're not doing enough, or that it's not the way it's supposed to be, whatever that is for them. So I feel like SMART goals really help you name the marker, but ARRIVE goals really help you make sure the marker belongs in the life that you're actually trying to build. And we do a lot of this in the Brand Spark experience with our clients. We name what she wants to accomplish. We name what the brand offers. The language, the time need to support the goal does not become one more thing she has to carry. It actually becomes something that supports the life she wants. So it's that difference that I think is missing for women and hasn't been talked about, because the SMART goal methodology has always been there, and it probably works really well for men, but not so much for women. I do think men are evolving, because my husband has this idea of enjoyment as well. So I think it's evolving a little bit. But so much of men's...
I do definitely think we are kind of becoming a little more similar, but I think we'll always be different. We'll always have these different needs for sure. And I think everything you just said was beautifully said. And mainly like the simplification of everything and getting really clear on what your goals are. Any last minute thoughts you'd like to leave everyone with today?
Okay, so I'm going to leave listeners with one simple exercise. I call this the finish line inventory. I want you to take a piece of paper or your phone and in your notes app, whatever, and write 3 sentences. Once I X, then I'll let myself X. The finish line that keeps moving in my business is X. And one decision I can make from where I am now is X. Then choose one place where you keep waiting, which is maybe your pricing, your calendar, your content, your client boundaries, your offer structure, the follow-up process, your rest, your ability to enjoy what you've already built, and ask yourself, what would I change if I trusted that I already have earned the next decision? That question can bring up a lot, so let it be simple. One expectation named, whatever that is, one price that reflects the real work, one protected afternoon. One thing can be very simple. One Sunday kept free, whatever that is, one boundary. And then the next version of the business often begins to like show because it's through one honest decision, that little brave step that finally reflects what you already deeply know and build off of that. You don't have to we're high capacity, right? We want to do big things. It doesn't need to be big. It can be one Sunday. It can be one email that you don't reply to right away. It can be one thing. Those are all the brave steps you can take. And to think about it through the arrive lens, how does this goal fit my life? And what will I enjoy if this goal happens? And then toast to it. Take a little celebration. It doesn't have to even be anything big, just a cup of cocoa on the back porch, whatever that might feel good to you. I think the thing that I love the most about the work that I do is that I get to help women really have more intentionality about every part of their work. And instead of being reactive, they're able to control things better, which brings the stress, the burnout, and exhaustion down for them. And that allows them to be more creative, to be more happy, to be better at what they do, better moms, better wives, better whatever that they are in their lives. And that to me is very fulfilling. If you are interested in doing this kind of work, we obviously could go to wickedlybranded.com and you could sign up for a clarity call with me or our Brand Spark experience, which is like brand therapy. It's amazing. One of my most favorite things to do. They really help you get to see the forest for the trees. Like sometimes you're so busy doing, you don't see who you're becoming in the process. And then we really help you do that. Or you could even, I have a free book, my first book, Marketing for Entrepreneurs. Great little tips you can get for your business. That's free to download when you go to the website. So at the wickedlybranded.com is great. And then we're on every social platform, Wickedly Branded, and then LinkedIn, Beverly Cornell. I'd love to connect and chat more with you and learn more about where you're at and support you in that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for talking about this concept. I know it's part of the bigger project you're working on, which is your new book, which is
Yes.
scheduled to come out in summer, late or early fall, and
Yes.
which is really exciting. So I look forward to digging deeper into it in future episodes. It's such important information for women to have who are in the business world, who are building a business, but who want their life back. And it's that balance,
Mm-hmm.
it's actual balance. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this conversation was so important for those types of women out there. Thank you so much, Beverly. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today.
I always love our chats and I love sharing these little tips of wisdom. And I really hope that maybe somebody listening today, even if it's just one person, has a little bit of relief and how they kind of look at their goals going forward. That's what this is all about. I don't want you to sit in any of this any longer than you have to. And, we are the first generation of female founders doing these really cool things and leading companies. And we're in uncharted territory. And so, all of us women that are doing it and have these little hacks or whatever you want to call it, we need to be sharing it more often so that we all can create the work and the lives that we all deserve at the end of the day. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having me.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you feel like you know someone who may benefit from this conversation, please send it to them. And just know that you can be grateful for what you've built and be ready to change the way it asks for your life. And so life is
Hmm.
supposed to be about balance and boundaries and really looking after nurturing the soul. And as soon as you start feeling that burnout, that's a sign that something needs to change, something needs to simplify. You need to reassess
Hmm.
those goals. And so stay tuned for the next episode and we'll dive deeper into these topics. And until then, take care and start writing down those goals.